To anyone watching online, we're just taking a few more minutes here in the flesh to see if anybody else trickles in before we get started. So hang tight. Also, I know we've had some issues with audio on the live streams in the past. As you can see, I have a mic. If any of you are still having audio issues, please let me know. I will forward it to the appropriate parties. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome everyone to the latest monthly installment of the EFF Austin Meetup. My name is Kevin Welch. I'm the current president of the board at EFF Austin. I see both a bunch of familiar faces, welcome back, and a few new faces, welcome first-timers. For those of you who are new and are like, what is EFF Austin? Well, as you might guess from the name, we are an Austin-based digital celebrities organization. We work closely with Electronic Frontier Foundation, who are based out of San Francisco. They're the nation's oldest and largest digital celebrities advocacy group. You can kind of think of them as the ACLU for the internet. They work to protect your rights in emerging technological spaces, especially your First and Fourth Amendment rights, so basically free expression and implicit right to privacy. They do a lot of really cool, awesome work, and for those of you who follow the tech news right now, we sorely need them because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. So if you want to keep pushing against encryption backdoors, if you are against the age gating of the internet, which is going literally destroying the internet in the UK, and I'm not actually using hyperbole there, and just a whole bunch of other things going on right now. You should definitely learn more about them. They have incredible resources. Donate to them, get involved. Also, let's say you're not based in San Francisco, but you still want to get involved. They run what's called the EFA, or the Electronic Frontier Alliance, which is probably about 100-ish groups all around the United States who none of us are formally legally affiliated with each other, but we all kind of engage in peer-to-peer activism. So there's probably a group near you. EFF Austin is the oldest member of the EFA. EFF was founded in 1990. We were founded in 1991 because some of the legal cases that led to the founding of EFF happened here in Austin. You're welcome to ask me more about that if you're curious later. So we're the oldest member, although for a long time we were not the only one in Austin. We were actually the only one in Texas for a very long time, despite there being 100 EFA groups, though I'm happy to say that for about a year now, fellow EFA member Open Austin, who's based in Austin, based out of the former Code for America Brigade, are also members of the EFA, and our friends. You should go check out their events as well. I think they might still have a few coming up for this year, though I'm forgetting, but you can definitely Google them and find that out. Anyway, we tend to do much less federal advocacy than national EFF. We're far more focused on education, mainly taking the form of these monthly meetups, which occur the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. here at Capitol Factory, usually on the ground floor, though we had to get moved up here this month. And so if you like this kind of stuff and want to meet people in the space and get involved, we encourage you to come out. We'll have several more meetups throughout the rest of the year. Should have some fun speakers. I'm currently chatting with the head of the Austin Technology Commission to have him come out and talk a bit about what the Technology Commission does. So that'll be a fun one. A few other things in the works. Some people from some famous privacy podcasts, potentially some nerdy stuff about Linux through the years. Bunch of stuff in the works. Should be a lot of fun. So let's see. Before I introduce our speaker, let me see if there's anything I should show you all about. Oh yes, as I said, we mostly do education. We also have been known to occasionally throw fun cyberpunk-themed South by and holiday parties when funding is available. Also want to give a big thanks to our recent venue space, Grotto 101, which has been donated as an in-kind donation by one of our board members, so we're very thankful for that. And also, we do, believe it or not, do some political activism ourselves, much like National EFF, mostly at the city and state level. Most recently, we've been involved in a lot of the discussions in Austin around automated license plate readers. We were one of the main groups in a coalition of about 30 groups that actually in June here got the city of Austin to not renew its automated license plate reader contract with Flock. We are very pleased about that. Of course, the fight is not over. The inside gossip is that the council members who want this will, through the city manager, be bringing it back for a vote to try to bring it back probably around December. If you want to get more involved in the fight to make sure they stay out of Austin, there is actually a coalition website you should go to, noalprs.org. You can get some information about how to get involved with some of the groups. I know local DSA is doing canvassing in various neighborhoods to try to educate people about Flock. And for those of you who don't know very much about the issue, I'll just say if you really don't like the thought of technology that is rapidly not just going to know everywhere you've driven, but actually is being enhanced to, with AI, try to detect if your driving is suspicious and arrest you even though you haven't done anything, they are actually looking into doing this. So, I'd get involved if you care about these issues. I think that's my rallying cry to you all for this month. So probably, without further ado, I will introduce our speaker here, unless if anybody in the room has any announcements they'd like to share, that's welcome. We welcome announcements from the community. Shameless self-promotion's totally cool, as long as you think it would be of interest to the EFF Austin community in some way. Anybody have anything they want to share? It could be events going on, something you're working on, just something you want to alert the community to. It's fine if the answer is no, just always like to give the space. All right, then without further ado, and also if anybody watching online has had questions for me or if there have been any tech issues, I will deal with them as soon as I get back to my computer, but hopefully we're good. Anyway, going to introduce our speaker for this month, and we're very happy to be joined by Rachel Stuckey. Make got the name right? Yep. Rachel Stuckey is an artist and the director of digital arts at the Museum of Human Achievement in Austin, Texas. Very cool art space. If any of you haven't been, I suggest you check it out if you've never been. She there advocates for diverse voices in media arts and indie games. In 2014, she founded the Welcome to My Homepage Digital Artist Residency. She's previously worked as gallery director at Women in Their Work and community organizer for Girls Who Code. She is a member of the digital empowerment community of Austin and served on the City of Austin and Travis County's Digital Equity Working Group. She has an MFA in Transmedia Studio Art from UT Austin and a BFA in Filmmaking from University of Colorado Boulder. So anywho, I figured it might be fun to have Rachel here talk to us a bit about what are some of the digital arts programs that go on at the Museum of Human Achievement. They are essentially, you can sort of think here at Capital Factory, this is our version of a tech incubator. Rachel may correct me, but I get the impression that MOA tries to do something similar of an incubator for digital artists in their work. And so, you can read the spiel on the event thing, but I think without further ado, I will just let Rachel tell us a little bit about the cool work she does at MOA trying to make digital art happen. Take it away.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, everybody. Has anyone here been to the Museum of Human Achievement? Just curious. Cool. Okay, not very many people. Exciting. Right on. Well, I'm going to be talking about driving chaotic innovation through art plus technology situationships, which maybe is a hint to the work that we do is a little lighthearted and silly, and I think that's a good way to invite people in to working with technology. Since many of you aren't familiar with MOHA, we are a community-driven space that's in East Austin. We're grounded in affordability, inclusivity, and access for artists. Our vision is for an empowered, resilient, creative community where each member has the resources to foster well-being, prosperity, and a self-determined future. Or in short, do cool stuff together. Our website is a wiki. I have QR codes on many of the pages so that I don't ramble into tangent land about all of the projects that I'll be showing, but you can scan if you want to see more. We've got articles that are written by artists or a history of every event that we've done. So if you want to dig more, you can feel free to scan the code or ask me about it. Also, I'm open to questions, and we'll have questions at the end too. But yeah, feel free to hop in. What's happening here tonight? I'm going to start with most of what we'll be talking about is an overview of MOHA's digital arts programs. And then, if you want to dig more into any bit that I'm talking about, feel free to ask. And then an invitation to just ways that you can participate in what we do and get involved, and some upcoming events. And then a question for discussion, while I've got people here in the room, just brainstorming if anyone has ideas as we are finding support, but most importantly, communicating the value of this work to the tech sector. I'd be curious to hear if you have any thoughts.
And if anybody does have a question for Rachel, please raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic, because the people on the live stream will not be able to hear your question if it is not spoken into the mic.
Cool. Right on. Oh, missing image here. So in thinking about digital arts, just kind of this question of I want to make a digital art space, media art community in Austin, talking around to folks in town about what are the issues that we're seeing that is causing a lack of a robust media arts community here. It is a thing that I saw more in Austin as I was a young person growing up, and the technology was more filmmaking. You would go to a hub where you could use the technology and equipment there because it wasn't something that you would afford and use at home. So community is naturally more of a part of it. But as we're moving to affordable tech, we're working at home more, we're not talking to people as much. And kind of those key spaces in town either closed because they caught on fire or were less relevant. So how can I build that back? And I'm going to just switch back to a picture page. Talking with artists, hearing the big thing that's keeping artists from working with tech is the intimidation factor. It's mysterious. How do you talk to a technologist to collaborate if you don't know the vocabulary or how something works? And it seems expensive, hard to learn, all of these things. There can be barriers to access to technology, people who can talk to artists about it, ways to learn about ways of using it. And then from technologists, there's a lot of tech here in Austin. Was talking with tech transplants of people who had been relocated here by their job, love the culture of Austin, but have no way to like connect with the city because it feels like they're here for work and they're not necessarily venturing out. So my idea was like, how can we activate people who are working in tech to like participate, vote in local elections, like care about civic issues. And I think that my way of knowing how to do that is to like put them directly in contact with artists to work on projects that they care about. So digital arts at MOHA was born over a series of years, but our digital arts programs empower a diverse population of artists to use emerging and ubiquitous technologies in thoughtful and unexpected ways. So using them in weird and creative ways and thinking about the ethics behind it while doing it. And while connecting technologists to local issues through community building. This was a fun workshop that we did outside of making memes, learning how to make memes and sharing plenty of them. We host low stakes, low budget, yet wildly ambitious opportunities for chaotic, joyful, and collaborative experimentation with tech, and we pay artists to do it. So I think it's really important to take the like business side out of the equation when trying to like innovate and think creatively about technology. You're just doing it for the hell of it rather than doing it for some kind of business output. And when we are able to pay artists to do that, we can remove that like need for the end product to make money totally out of the equation. They're already getting paid up front to like fuck around and find out what they can make. This was a really fun workshop where we learned about deep fakes and socially engineered real fakes with technologists political leaders. Ask me more about it if you want to know more. So we host lots of chaotic, very low stakes prompts for play experimentation and community building. One of my favorite ones is our like digital do-si-do events. And these are just really easy prompts where I was wanting to connect the indie video games community that we have in our stable, as well as artists to like cross-pollinate, talk to each other, collaborate. And how we were doing that was just through these easy, fun invitations that were hosted across both of those community Discord servers. So You Owed Me One was, did anyone ever remember the website YTMND? Hell yeah, great. This like silly web format style of like, you can have an audio file and an image and text. And that was the format for Valentine's Day. Make one of those for someone else. So it was fun to get people like, how do I like build that? Many of them were done with HTML. Some folks found other ways around it. So it's like dust off some skills that you have and you maybe haven't used in a while, or like a funny part of your brain where you're like, yeah, when I was in middle school, I thought this was so fun. Like, do it again. Keep making stuff. We did like, you can make a voicemail by any means and share it with someone. Desktop poetry was making desktop backgrounds based off of requests that people had. We run these like a Secret Santa sort of thing. Anyway, super fun time. Scaled up, and kind of on that same line of just like, it's low stakes, just have fun. We've run several media jams. Come On Down Game Show Game Jam is a great example of putting the arts community, so folks who are performers, costume designers, set builders, different kinds of artists, and game designers in communication to make a game show. So our prompt was, we'll give you a live studio audience, a stage, and we'll run lighting, and you make a game show, 10 minutes run. And so we had some very fun and silly things happening there, and people who joined on game jam teams there have continued collaborating and making projects together that are like, that they're getting paid to do. So it's fun to have this sort of like, incubator is not exactly a word that we use, but I do feel like it is a good parallel to what's happening. Chess But Better or Worse was an invitation for game designers to make chess better, or my favorite, make chess worse. So just like play, explode things. CATS Plus is one of our kind of key programs that's been running for 3 years at this point. It stands for the Collaborative Art Plus Technology Situation. And situation because maybe you've all heard the art plus technology, the intersection of art and technology I was tired of hearing about, but situation felt nicely casual and funny to me. So it's a residency program for artists who are interested in expanding their work in digital and new media, and they have some kind of barrier to doing that, so we're trying to reduce those barriers. It is twice a year, twice a year when we have funding to do it, a cohort of about 6 artists who work together for a period of 3 months. They have studio space, and we pay them for their time to collaborate together on projects. It's community-centered, and we bring in mentors and do whatever training the participants want to do, basically. And then for the broader community, we also host other collaborations, artist-led workshops, hangouts, showcases, all kinds of things. And one of the things to me that's really important in like making innovation happen and getting exposure to working outside of corporate software offerings is by learning how to learn software through exposure to lots of software, and ideally affordable and open source software, and from artists using it. So artists learn best from other artists rather than like, if you hear it in a way of how an artist is using it, it triggers something more than you might be able to learn in a university setting or in a workshop, because you're hearing more process while it's happening. Universities are going to teach the corporate software that they have their contracts with and tell you that it's industry standard, and often that's like Adobe Creative Suite, things that are really hard for artists to maintain paying for once they're out of school. And they don't need to do it because there are open source alternatives that can be used instead. And what I have heard from people is, if you're trained exclusively on one software, you know that software. You don't know how to quickly pick up new software. And as a media artist, I feel like this is my biggest thing, is just like, what do I need for the job? Pick it up. So some examples I have here are one of our season of CATS Plus residents. There was a lot of interest in projection mapping. So we just said, cool, let's teach projection mapping in as many ways as we can. So we did 3 different workshops. I think we taught projection mapping on like 5 different like softwares and ways of learning it, from like, this is the most challenging, an artist made this and the software hasn't been supported for the last 10 years, but it still works, and you can learn like the fundamentals of like really know how projection mapping works, and then into the sort of like luxury suite, incredibly expensive licensed software that looks really nice and you don't really have to like do or learn anything to use it. And it's interesting, like putting the 2 in a group with artists together, and there's one that's like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling so much just to make something really dumb happen, versus like, instantly I'm a celebrity, oh, I want to do this. And so there's that dichotomy that you're like having to teach people how it's valuable to have access to both and how to learn both. So that when you have a commission that allows you to pay for a couple months license on the really expensive luxury software, you can do it, but you understand the fundamentals, and you can keep your overhead costs low, and you can continue making work as an artist even when you don't have a big fancy commission. And also, it's so valuable to hear from a lot of different voices of how to do something, what the process is, different paths that people take. So yeah, many ways. And another part of the CATS Plus program is to just expose people to as many things as possible as we can. So during that same kind of cohort, we had, yeah, you're in this picture. We had Sabine hosted an oscillographics and vector synthesis workshop. She built her own laser projector from scratch and is having people kind of feel the same sine wave goes to an oscillograph, to the laser projector, and it goes through a tens unit so you can feel the electrical pulses. So here we're, and a synthesizer, audio synthesizer, so you can hear, see, and feel the same sine wave and play around with it. So a really awesome way for folks who don't know about waveforms to like experience it in a lot of different senses. Laser cutting workshop, yeah, we just did all kinds of demos. It's just like, who's interested in what? Can you teach a demo about it? Even if you're just learning about it, teaching it helps you learn about it more and gets people excited about it and creating projects, asking questions about why it's challenging, this kind of thing. Another method, so when the CATS Plus kind of regular session cohort is a very like, play, thoughtful, lots of space. It's weekly meetings for people to choose and get their feet wet on a lot of different things. We do an annual holiday play, which is maybe the most ambitious use of cardboard and flat screens that you've ever seen. I highly recommend coming to see one. They are always so fun, and usually are a riff on a movie that everyone loves. So we did Edward Normal Hands in 2023, yeah, so this play, we invited a cohort of CATS Plus residents to, and yeah, the plot of the play is essentially like everyone in the town has weird hands except for Edward. The weird hands are caused by the 5G tower that's just built in town, and there's like a lot of beautiful songs about the dangers of 5G. Hilarious. And yeah, Edward has normal hands and is worshipped as a result. This is a great article that has like a full, we hired my friend Bucky, who is a journalist, to like give a full behind the scenes of just like how did this come together, who's doing what is the silly process behind it. But for the full production of the play, which sells out for like 6 shows every year to an audience of 150 people, the entire production of it happens in 1 month time span. So from writing to executing it, we just make it incredibly fast. And we're teaching artists how to do live production technology on the fly. So they're like, I've never done it before. I would like to learn it. Cool, I'll come learn it during the show. So it's a great opportunity for folks who need like an intense amount of motivation through fear to learn something super on the fly. And yeah, I like to describe it as the pressure is high. The pressure is incredibly high. You've got a full audience there. You want to impress them. You've got like some exciting Austin celebrities who are in the cast and you don't want to let them down. But the stakes are really low because we kind of set it up so that if anything breaks, it's part of it. It just makes it better. So if the snow machine isn't working how we thought it was going to work, if the LED wall is glitching out, if the live camera feeds that we have, they're like not essential to the plot, they're just addition. So it ends up being a really fun success, even if everything breaks and fails. Kind of built in. For the residency, we also create space and knowledge for artists to make work that isn't influenced by a specific technology product, but that's in conversation with technology. So again, not teaching a technology, but teaching like what is technology, how do you use it, how do you break it, how do you think about it. A project that I think is a great example of this is, let me make this full screen, CATS Plus Dance, Logic Machine coming on and offline with virus. How this project came about, Itai Almore was one of the residents. They are a dancer, and so when thinking of a workshop, they're like, I don't know what technology to present. I will dance. I will teach us all to dance, and we're going to dance like computer code. So come up with your logic and do it with your body in the space. So I think this was their notes about the workshop. And there was a video that was produced, like really beautiful black and white film of everyone doing their running their logic with their bodies. And then it got translated by some of the technologists who were in the group of just like write out the pseudocode. What is the pseudocode of the dance that you did? And so we've got like, and the folks in the room who were programmers were able to bring like a really analytical, like, okay, I am gonna run a piece of code through my body. I'm not a dancer, this is uncomfortable to me, but I know how to like make a program and I can do that. And then the dancers in the room had a bit more like, their pseudocode is just, here's the movements that I did. That then got translated. And yeah, we've got different languages of choice were chosen by different of the programmers. Callan ended up turning the movements into a P5.js script. Everyone made icons to represent themselves, and it became this funny like code visualization of the dance that was physically done. And then this was like very beginnings of like accessible AI video generators, and some of the folks in the group were like, what is this? So we're putting kind of phrases of the dance from the pseudocode then into the AI generators to see what came out of that. And then all of the final stuff got put into a sculpture of CRT TVs that was stacked. And was at the showcase. But kind of an example of just how things are weaving through, working with technology as a way of thinking about and challenging technology. Cool. Wow, any questions so far? Yes.
So who's maintaining all of these websites and keeping them up to date? Like the labor behind all of this stuff seems pretty overwhelming. And I just would like to understand if it's shared.
Overwhelming I feel like describes a lot of what we do. So Museum of Human Achievement as an organization began as like a lot of volunteer labor. And when I joined as like a work trade position in 2017, I was the second person. I joined as like an actual staff member in 2022 and was staff member 2, and now we have 6 people, which is so amazing. So we do have Arian Austria helps us with Wiki, and we hire contractors, actually past. Whenever I can, I love to hire past residents who've worked with us to then do work for us on a paid basis. So Sam Mayer, who is in the background dancing here, is our technical writer. So he'll kind of update. He'll sit with artists who are not writers, who are making wiki articles about their process, and help get it into like a legible, readable form for the wiki. Because I think it's so important to continue that like open source sharing of knowledge for artists to talk about the process, no matter how like stumbly and messy. And like, I tried these 17 YouTube tutorials and I hated all of them and I gave up on this thing entirely. And instead I did this other thing. Here's a picture of my cat. By the way, like it's a lot of just like train of thought, just like, but that's how artwork gets made. That's how learning to code gets made. So it's important that we're sharing this and we're making it available.
This is a slightly nerdy technical follow-up. Like, so does MOA have on-premises servers? Do they rent VPSs for their infrastructure? Is it a combination?
We have a server on site. You're
not a tech startup of just running a VPS. You're old-fashioned. You got a server in there.
We sure do. Yes. Yes, and it's in a very nice, large metal box because at first we just had all of our hardware just sort of like next to the cat food in the bathroom, and like every time we had a music show, just like beers, we're like, don't spill it on the hardware. So
Keeping the 90s alive. I love it.
yeah, yep. Great question. Yeah.
How does this work get funded? How does this work get funded?
Yeah, great question. Wow. And this is part of my question to y'all. So we have had a lot of grant funding for these programs in particular. National Endowment for the Arts was one of the big funders for us. That funding has all been tanked by the federal government, so that's not a funder for us anymore. Another big funder is the Grant for Technology Opportunities, which is a City of Austin funding pool for digital equity programs. And we also don't have that grant funding right now. You can receive it 3 times out of 5 years, so we're on our 2-year diet for that. Otherwise, it's individual donors. We have a lot of individual members who are at like low $2 to $10 a month levels. We also have studio space in our building, which is a large unair-conditioned warehouse, which you can see the venue of in the background here. We do venue rentals for events. In our kind of mission of radical affordability, a lot of that is donated, but when people do have budget, we'll charge them a fee. Occasionally people have gotten married there, film shoots, that kind of thing. But yeah, studio rent is part of it. What else? Ticket sales. And yeah.
I imagine some of the big partnerships with things like East or Fusebox also help with bills sometimes. They rent you guys out.
That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
That's not how it works.
Not how it works.
East is a great opportunity to like generate membership, yeah. So it'll bring in like hundreds of dollars, and it helps like artists sell work at that. So what we do is we'll have artists like just come show your work. It's East, people will buy it, and Fusebox has been a great partner where we can. That's more like, wow, we want to bring this really cool person and get some of the cost covered to do it, but yeah.
Incredible partners, just not necessarily monetary partners.
Yes, yes. Yep, art is expensive. That's what I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, no, we've got a lot of grant funding at different levels. It just is like really lean times right now, for sure.
I guess I almost feel compelled to follow up on that a little bit. Like, do you, once again, not to get too political, but it's kind of hard not to. What are your thoughts about the role of grant funding in making the digital arts happen? And what do you see as the options with all that funding cut and no sign it's probably coming back anytime soon?
Yes, what a great question, Kevin. Thank you. Yeah, as someone who has worked in nonprofit arts for most of my career, it's so important to fund an artist up front, to say you're doing important, good work, and it doesn't have a monetary value. End of story. Here's your money to do it. Because if everything that's being made is like being made to be sellable, it's not going to be any good. We're not going to challenge anything. We're just going to hit status quo every time. And that's not how you make art. So yeah, I think it is so necessary in terms of making art that's like world changing. So I'm very pro that. And yeah, with the funding going away, like, it's still going to happen. It's still going to get made, and artists are going to be more impoverished than they already are. It just is like other things in life get cut for artists before making the art gets cut, and that sucks. So those are my thoughts.
So if you care about the arts, it's up to you funding an artist more than ever, you as the individual, at least for the short term.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I'll keep talking about more stuff that we do, and yeah, keep the questions coming. So welcome to my homepage. This began as a pet project of mine, like nights and weekends baby that I made, and it's still running strong and growing, which is awesome. Welcome to my homepage is an international online residency program that offers artists financial and technical support to explore the internet as a site for creative production. Founded in 2014, we've hosted over 120 artists from across the World Wide Web. And yeah, the idea is for folks who are only aware of the internet as just kind of the corporate main sites that you see, like bringing back a sense of awe of the internet, of like how to have fun with it, make it your own space, do something wild, make your dreams come true, and make artwork that is accessible to anywhere with an internet connection, which is kind of a radical idea for artists who are making, like, we hosted recently a playwright and theater director who made a website that was a play and has been able to tour it to festivals for zero cost, which rules. Like, get the work out there and make it affordable and accessible. Mentoring is a big part of Welcome to My Homepage. So as I meet people in the world, it might be you. Let me know if you like talking with artists about the technology you know how to use. So it's 3 weeks, one artist at a time for 3 weeks, and they work on whatever project that they've proposed. And then I pair them with a mentor that fits whatever technical skill they want to learn, whether it's that they want to use JavaScript or they want to talk about, is there anyone who's burned their entire art collection, like philosophical ideas, and I'll match make people to talk. And what I've heard a ton from the technologist mentors that we've paired folks with is just like, my mind was blown by this weird request that an artist gave me, which is so, so fun to see. One example is Ran Ran Fans, The Waiting Machine. This artist was just like working through nerves of like applying for her green card and having to constantly wait and just dig through bureaucratic websites and all of the paperwork and waiting and anxiety that came with it. So she made a really beautiful website that's sort of a balm, like you can go to it while you're waiting, and instead of clicking refresh on your government websites, you can instead click around this. And one of the things she wanted to do with JavaScript was just like erase an entire website. The mentor she was working with was like, that's not really how you use JavaScript, but technically you can do it. She was like, wow, beautiful. Like just a bunch of poetic kind of art pieces made with this. Zoom Escaper was the one project that like reached international news from Welcome to My Homepage. It hit at the right time. So we're all in lockdown at home using Zoom for the first time for a lot of people, and we hate it by this point. So Sam's project, Zoom Escaper, is a piece of creative software where you can turn on like the sound, you can boost your echo, you can make bad connection noises. There's like audio of a baby crying or an adult man crying.
Boss, I'm not technically incompetent. It's an art project.
Yes, yeah. So you could download this. There was Zoom Escaper, and there was also Zoom Deleter, so that you would download Zoom, and anytime you opened Zoom, it would automatically delete it. There was a suite of just like ways to wreck your Zoom for yourself or for others in your life, and it really hit at the right time. So CNN did a piece on it. It was on CNET. It was on some international news. It was very fun how it just like had a moment. But you can still grab it if you want to try it. But yeah, fun ways of like artists breaking the rules. They have no stakes in the game with technology. Like what do technologists have to learn from artists, and especially from folks who are the most impacted by the negative effects of the technology? That's artists' lived experience, and they will share it with folks who are working in tech, which I think is really powerful. Another example from a recent project, Casper Ravel wanted to play with and understand website accessibility settings more than kind of the corporate way that they tend to be packaged and expressed as, but to use them as part of the artwork itself. And they're thinking about access in terms of data, like amount of data someone has access to, and different like adding alt text for readers who have low vision or low hearing. So there is the text on the website, which is a poetic journey of their like task of finding and photographing yellow cars. The images load in like 10 kilobyte format first, super low res, and then if you want to load full res, you can hover over and it'll show the high res version. there's a story that they have just about their kind of meandering thoughts of yellow cars. There's an audio transcript that is a slight variation of what's in the text. So you can listen to that. You can also listen to your screen reader read out the text. And then the alt text does what alt text should. It describes what's in the image. And it has like the voice gets more cheeky or more angry, or the way that the image is being interpreted changes as they're experiencing different feelings as they're going through the poetic piece. Highly recommend it. And this has been one, as I'm working with and talking to accessibility experts who are like, yes, what a great example of how to like really push that medium and think about what else it could be. And then Sarah Martinez did some nice, like there is like an ASCII art kind of project. And then if you open Inspector, you see in the code itself is where there is poetry that kind of shows up as you click through the project. And we've got a huge archive of the projects on the website too, so I recommend, welcome to my homepage, checking it out. You can get involved too. There are so many ways. So my wizard registry is, you can sign up on here. Basically, just tell me what you're excited about and what you want to do. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved. As a mentor, come participate in workshops. I'm often looking for people to like talk and teach artists and all these kind of things. Collaborate on like the next weird thing we do. Let me know. It's both like, yeah, it's just telling me who you are and what you're about. And it's kind of my Rolodex when I need to match make. I can pull from that too. And also it just tells me more about you. We'd love to have you sign up. And then we have like volunteer opportunities. We have a lot of events coming out to find out about. We've got a Discord server you can hang out and chat in with like tech support channels. I love when a new person wants to come help on tech support in there.
Is there an especially fun event coming up in the near future you'd love to see people at?
What a great question. I've got some slides about it.
Oh, I read your mind.
Yeah, this one I'm really excited about. On August 20th, a media art accessibility workshop. During this workshop, so Church of the Friendly Ghost is a sound art organization in town, and their new Media Art and Sound Summit is coming up at MOHA in September.
Yeah, I'll just say to anybody who doesn't know what NMAS is, if you're like a weird audiophile music nerd into weird electronic bleeps and boops, it's church, so I highly encourage you go.
It is my favorite festival that exists. It's so good. But yeah, they came to us and said, hey, can we talk to people at MOHA about how to make the event accessible in a creative way? So using media art to bring accessibility to sound art, which is, I'm not going to say by definition, but certainly by practice, a really impenetrable, like dense field for nerds in like the best, most loving way. But how do we make it accessible to people who don't know what sound art is or how to listen to it, and for people who have other accessibility needs? So we've got some awesome UX designers who specialize in accessibility topics who've been consulting with us on various projects, and different artists. But yeah, the idea is like, let's just brainstorm some ways and see how we can make accessibility part of the performance of this. Check it out. You can read more about it. Would love to have you attend. If you have any questions, let me know. Games Y'all is our monthly indie video games meetup that happens sometimes at MOHA, sometimes around town. Like, we'll be at House and Branch Library because they have air conditioning and we do not. We do, so I don't scare you away from the media arts workshop, we do have air conditioning in our technology lab, so come for that. Our big event space is not climate controlled. But yeah, Games Y'all is a great open invitation for local and non-local indie video game makers and digital artists to submit their work, show it, and it's a really like nice, generous community of folks who just wants to like play and share and talk about games. And then if you are a media artist or you know one who needs funding, everyone, UNESCO, Austin is a UNESCO Media Arts City. Museum of Human Achievement is a partner in that. And we have put together a UNESCO Media Arts grant. So groups who are doing anything media arts related in Austin. We just want to like showcase and uplift the importance of that. So as long as it's like whatever entity has been doing something for 2 years or more, they can apply for $2,000 of funding. Spread the word. We're doing tomorrow and later this week some applicant workshops to answer questions about that. Wow, yes, where are we going now? Right, so, okay, my question is like, how do we communicate the importance of this to the technology sector? I know how to communicate it to the arts, that's pretty easy. The stats are pretty high. And I know how to communicate it to digital equity, but I think a lot of us in the room know that funding is also like tanking right now. But yeah, so many, 83% of the respondents who participate in our programs have a better sense of community in tech arts, better confidence in using it towards their careers, familiarity of what's available. And I think the biggest marker of success to me is that almost 70% of past participants come back as mentors or board members, studio members, all this kind of thing. But I haven't yet figured out how to communicate this to the tech sector, which is notoriously non-philanthropic. But I'm going to show, I'm like, this is me thinking it out. How do I, let's think about it in terms of Tesla. The programs are at like new Tesla prices for budget, and we're making them happen on used Buick prices. I feel like that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not asking for a lot. But yeah, I'm just curious if anyone has like, throughout the talk, is there anything where you're like, yes, this resonates with me, or this is confusing to me, or here's who you got to talk to? I'm, yeah, curious.
Before I turn it over to the room and see if anybody have thoughts on your open question there, I had just one quick question from online where somebody was kind of wondering, like, as far as like a lot of the art that's made at MOA and, you know, it's made collaboratively, potentially with different funding sources, different creators, how is art ownership treated at MOA? Like, who owns it eventually, and how are things like repeat sales handled and things like that?
Yeah, great question. So the artists own their work always. We don't have any ownership over it at all. We do, like for the Welcome to My Homepage projects, we ask for the ability to archive it. And that archiving is like screenshots and a video recording, some amount of web recording, but, and we'll keep the link in our archive as long as we can, but it's on space that the artists own. So it's up to them what they do with it. We ask that they keep it live for 4 months, and then if they want to delete it, they can. Technically, if they want to delete it immediately, they can. Like, really, it doesn't matter. They're not required to keep it. But yeah, the Cats Plus projects, we also keep documentation of, but the projects themselves are all among the artists, and it's up to them to decide. If they're working with a collaborator, we do ask them to make agreements with their collaborators. If they're going to sell it, how is that going to work out? We also ask them to always consider like data privacy and ethics, especially working with web work and artists. That's the one thing where you don't want chaotic innovation happening, is like, if you're turning on someone's webcam, you gotta tell them why, these kind of things. And then sales, we do not handle or do sales. It's all on the part of the artist. If they want their work to be sold, that's them. But we're not like a gallery that is running sales for artists. We will run commissions sometimes, but yeah, it's always like paying up front for a thing that will be made. Good question. Anything else?
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, so I guess I will say if anybody in the room has thoughts about the direct question or just further questions for Rachel.
Yeah.
All right. I have a couple of ideas. They might be ridiculous, but I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
What if you had like a artist signing agency? You get new artists to sign up through you guys. You're essentially an agency, I guess. Kind of like how actors work.
Gotcha.
And then you have your contacts with the industry, or maybe even like some specific projects that might come up. So you can put the artists in touch with them, and then maybe get a commission out of that opportunity.
I see what you're saying. Cool. Yeah.
Another one could be, maybe they're similar, but let's say there is let's say there is Nike. They want to come up with a new marketing campaign, but they have their own marketing people. But what if they want to get some ideas? So they can float projects like that to venues like yourself, venues like Moha, so that you can open source the idea creation, make it like a contest or something, and then for running the contest, you get some income from Nike.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's something we've explored a little. Like we're hired by the McDonald Observatory to like come up with ideas for redoing their museum exhibit, which was great. But yeah, interesting. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else got? Oh, yeah.
Have there been any successful collaborations between artist groups and large tech companies or companies within the tech sector that you wish to replicate?
That is a very good question. What I've seen that I think I would be interested in replicating is like Real Life Mag. Real Life Magazine was a very cool tech art web publication, and it was funded by Snapchat, I think, which was weird to me that they were doing that, but the journalism that was coming out of it was so cool. And it ran for maybe 3 or 4 years, and then Snapchat was like, why are we funding this? And stopped. But that was a really great example of just like, there's funding that just goes to making a thing happen. That is what I would love to see. What I've encountered a lot with companies is a much more predatory relationship. It's hard to find one that is just like genuinely like, we value what you're doing and here you go. With Fantastic Arcade, we saw it a little bit, like a long-running indie video games festival. And game studios, some indie game studios and distributors recognize the value of having that be in Austin and be a thing that exists for just for the games ecosystem in general, and so is willing to put money behind it. But yeah, I wish I knew more good examples, to be honest. Yeah, thanks for the question.
This is a sort of a sidebar, but I find myself thinking it because a related version of this question affects the work we do, which is you talk about it's hard to get the tech sector interested in philanthropy. It's also hard to get the tech sector, well, at least traditionally, certain people are more interested these days, but it's traditionally been hard to get most people in the tech sector very interested in politics and the impact of laws on technology.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you... In your work, I mean, I know you're partially here because you're like, well, do other people have ideas? But I don't know, in your attempts to make this happen, I don't know, without getting too speculative, but like, do you have thoughts on maybe like, what is it about this industry that despite having a lot of money doesn't seem to be interested in these things the way that other industries flush with money, like say the oil industry famously does fund a lot of philanthropy in Texas. And so any thoughts on why this sector is so different in this regard? I have my own personal theories, but curious what you might think.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's one, when I was working at an art gallery, it was one that was asked a lot of like, how do we get the tech people in here to buy art? But that's not what they're interested in. Like, the tech people are like playing video games, or they're interested in anime. Like they have IP that they're interested in, and they're buying stuff. They're buying art that's coming from that. They're not going to go into an art gallery and like suddenly become interested in art because they have other interests. I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is like, not all tech. A lot of tech is creating corporate products and doing sales. You're like fully drinking the Kool-Aid of consumerism. So stepping outside of that into philanthropy is a big jump. I don't know why it works in oil. I think there's like guilt that's associated with it maybe. But there's that. I'm trying to think if I have other thoughts. And I honestly do think that being a transplant somewhere is part of it. If your work has said you're gonna you're going over here for a job and you didn't choose to live in that city, or maybe you did because there's a cool idea of like, there's beer in the co-working space and that's what's selling you on a place, but you're just going from your apartment to your work. You're not going to be connected to a city and you're not going to be interested in local issues.
Okay,
Yeah.
I actually really like that answer. That's one of the most insightful insights I've yet heard somebody make into maybe it is the very fact that tech is not tied to location. It can be done almost anywhere over
Yeah.
the internet,
Yeah.
remotely even. Maybe it is that lack of being anchored to a community and moving constantly that has something to do with why this industry isn't interested in philanthropy, isn't interested in politics, because it involves something about feeling rooted in a place. So thank you for that. That's actually one of the better answers I've heard anybody ever give for that. So
Happy
thank
to
you.
share it. Yeah.
Do we have other questions for Rachel? Or I can give it to you. I just want to make sure nobody else. Yeah. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet want to talk to Rachel about? Yeah, it's fine if not. It's always just what the audience wants to ask.
I have a slightly different opinion. I mean, tech workers are the same, or the group of people who do spend a lot of money on ridiculous things. So it's not like they don't have interest in spending money. And art is generic enough to mold to the expectations of the customers, right? What if the art is not really meeting the needs of the tech workers? These are the same nerds who spend money on like video game skins and overpriced coffee and running gear. There is money and they do spend, but maybe it's not quite meeting their expectations.
Yeah, and that is a big one to wrestle with, right? It's not meeting their expectations, and I also don't want it to. Like, I think the idea, like, when you're looking at, like, whatever, Atlassian, where can you go work? There's offices in Austin, live music capital of the world. Like, Keep Austin Weird is the selling chip, the bargaining chip that we have of Austin. It's here. Like, there's weird shit going on at Moha, and yeah, so how do we get companies to pay for this reputation that they're using to like launder their business? Is like, come here. It's not a product to be bought, but is a thing to support because it's important to the ethos of the city. In order to keep Austin different from other places, you have to support what's existing here. But if you're, I think it's like a local buy-in kind of a thing. And we did try, there was a time where we were like, yes, we're going to get a box truck and we're going to put our, like, at this point at Mohi, I was programming a lot of VR, or like artist-made VR projects where like, we'll put them in the bus, we'll drive it to like the Oracle offices and we'll have them pay us to entertain the workers because like, cool, like what a fun diversion for the workday. But we couldn't make the sales pitch right. It didn't quite work out, but we do have the box truck. And but yeah.
So I'm a theater professor and I teach at ACC students who come in just because they have to take an art credit. And when you're in that position, you're almost proselytizing the importance of promoting art. And you have to start from the basics. Why do we make art? Why that art now? And I think that there is a constant disconnect in certain sectors in which there are people that think that they don't know how to access the art. They think that they have to understand something that is like elitist, and then artists on the other hand think that the tech people are elitist and that there's like some serious disconnect with them. But when we have things like this, like, I have students that, they buy the skins, right? They like all about investing their money in whatever Steam, addition to their games they want to have. And that's awesome and great, but I'm a theater teacher. So I have to like convince them that it's worth their time to get out of the house in a car or a bus or walking to a whole place, and most of them are introverts. So the thing that I've kind of committed to lately is just this, like, kind of this mantra where I just say, all we have is each other. And whether it's digital, whether it's in person, but there's somebody behind the thing. There's somebody usually behind the thing. And if it's a thing that you maybe don't understand, or that maybe, you know, there's something out there for you. You just have to be a tiny bit courageous to leave the house or to leave the website, right? Like, I just literally went to this website that you said that the magazine did until 2022, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But sometimes culture doesn't catch up in time, and the artist dies before we just went to Amsterdam and saw Van Gogh's paintings. Van Gogh was completely dismissed in his lifetime. And so artists sacrifice themselves in many ways until later people realize, oh my gosh, this was actually really pertinent. And things move so fast right now. Sorry, I'm being a lecturer. Things move so fast right now that it's really hard. So I feel like if there's something that you see now, maybe follow your first instinct. If it's $100 or less, and it's from a local artist, just get it. You're not gonna regret it, because you'll always have, at bare minimum, a talking piece in your house, right? For your guests, for your friends, for your family, or something to pass down to somebody. Investing in artists isn't just about investing temporarily. It's about investing for decades. Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that? And I think to add to that, to say, like, yeah, our, tech workers have money, they're spending money on things, and to your point of saying there's like these IPs that they're invested in, I think that a lot of big companies do a really good job of sanding the artist away from the IP. So an artist is making the Fortnite skin, but you don't know what artist it is, and Epic isn't going to tell you which artist it is. An artist made that picture of Pikachu that you really like, but Nintendo will not let you know who it is. And Nintendo, if they do credit the artist, won't let them sell that piece to you. So I think that the tech workers are buying art that is having the artist erased from it in the best way they can.
Yeah, good point.
Do we have more questions for the room? If not, I have a couple that have popped into my head I can ask Rachel here. Yeah, two for you. First one, do you think possibly the ephemeral nature of tech art and the difficulty of archiving it due to constantly changing standards has anything to do with the problem? Like, it's currently estimated that even though compared to, say, film as a medium, video games are very, very young, it is estimated that potentially up to 85 to 90% of all video games ever made are hard to play right now, either for legal reasons or technology and compatibility reasons, or even legal, or just, you know, that they've been lost literally because it wasn't a very big game and all the copies got lost. Do you think that has a role to do with it? The second one is kind of not completely related, but it is something that I feel with you here, and just because it is a topic we discuss quite a bit at these meetups, I'd be curious to get your take on it, especially because tech workers do seem to like generative AI art, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that medium are. We tend to have more nuanced takes on it than you read in a lot of the popular press, but I think we'd be curious to hear what your take is. So those are my two questions for you.
Cool. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, we're always creating archiving problems. That's like, that's what media art is big archiving problems. This has always fascinated me about it too. I think as like a young person making art with my computer, that I was drawn to that. And I think being interested in, it's also like an issue with performance art. Anything that is ephemeral is hard to archive, and historically hasn't been archived because often the people making it are outside of the kind of dominant class of artists who are deemed important. And the ephemeralness is what is so great, I think. I don't know, like, that's a good question to ponder in terms of like support going towards it.
Maybe it's just harder for classics to get established just because it's harder to preserve them or access them in the first place. There's not necessarily an equivalent of repertory film house screenings for video games. Maybe there should be. But, and I mean, and just even speaking personally, I think of like I made an indie video game about 10 years ago, but it depends on an old version of the Java runtime. So it's like if you, you know, I have a precompiled binary you can play, but if you wanted to modify the source code and recompile it, you'd have to update it for a newer version of the runtime. So it's just stuff like that that I know from personal experience. You make this cool little piece of art, and it's hard to keep it working.
And that's what's exciting about it, though, right? Like,
In a sense.
it's going to be ruined immediately. You'll have to see it. You'll have to go to this one event to see it, because it can only work when the artist is there to push the button to make it go, because it's that fragile. I think that's what's exciting to me about media art, is how breakable and temporary it is. Yeah, I don't know. And sure, that makes it impossible to sell. But like, I think there's also, it seems like, an interest in general in just like you had to be there type of experiences. And yeah, maybe that's just in marketing. I don't know. But that's a good question. AI art, I don't know. I'm just bored of thinking about it. That's all I'm gonna, like, we were, like, our artists, as it was emerging, people were like, what is this?
Back when
How
it
do I play
actually
with
seemed,
this?
back when the early stuff was bizarre just because it didn't work very well, like Deep Dream, and you'd get some weird stuff out of it, you know.
Yeah, I think, the early, whatever Google's thing was, it made everything look like dogs. Yeah, it was funny for a little bit, and now I'm just I don't even want to think about it. It's so boring to me. That's all I can say.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Just had to ask you, you know, because it is one of the things people are thinking about right now.
Yeah. I think there's, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, have you had corporate sponsorships in the past? And I'm curious, like, what's of them has been successful, or maybe do you have any other like unexpected ways that y'all have been able to generate revenue outside of like endowments?
Yeah, okay, in games, yes, but as soon as games starts hitting hard times, like philanthropy is the first thing to go, along with layoffs. Like, it's just been rough out there, and even when companies are bouncing back, they've already fired their philanthropy person and they're not coming back. What else I'm hearing? Like, we have had like great partnerships with places like Indeed to provide like Lyft rideshare coupons, which has been really great for our artists because we're not super accessible by bus, and it's just folks don't have cars or gas money is expensive, and so being able to like have them get a rideshare over was really great for us. But they canceled that program, and they also offloaded all of their corporate giving staff to AI. Like, literally, this is what I've heard. Great. So it's just like being gutted from tech companies. Like, what little crumbs were there already is just like, goodbye, we don't need that anymore. Occasionally, we'll meet like a friend of somebody who works at a company to give us a VR headset. Great. And that's kind of the only way in that we've found. It really needs like an inside person, and that's what I'm always trying to find is like, do you work at a company? Can you get me inside there? Yeah, I feel like I've been like stood up on a lot of dates with places like Google Fiber is like, we'll give you free internet. We'll never write you back about it, though. It's not really going to happen. These kind of things. Like, it's almost there. Like, the companies are almost there, but the people who are running that program get let go, or they just chop the funding for it. I don't know. Yeah.
And yeah, I can just say that's my experience too. We've gotten some funding from some tech companies for events in the past, but it's like to fund weird activist cyberpunky stuff like we do, it's like pulling teeth. It's like I'll have to go back and forth. I'll have to hunt somebody down and literally go drinking with them and get them drunk, trying to pitch them. And for all my effort, I'll get $2,000 if I'm lucky. You know, it's an interesting experience.
And sometimes it works, and you're like, how do I make this? I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, you do feel like a rock star when you actually do get them to give you money, but it's few and far between.
Yeah. I don't know. A friend, I used to run an experimental film series, and a friend who ran it with me worked at IBM, and they have grants for employees, where if you have a nonprofit that you like, you can apply for money on behalf of that thing. And so he applied, and we were always able to get IBM money. I don't know if that program still exists. He's not working there anymore. But that was like, wow, this is cool. Like, it does happen. It's just so behind closed doors. Like for employees and what they're interested in.
And yeah, it does require just fortuitously knowing the right person. We had some people in our community who knew a quantum computing company CEO who, like, when he was young, was kind of a hacker. And so, like, you know, once I was able to get in front of him, it actually wasn't very hard to pitch him and get a little money out of him, but getting that access is half the challenge.
Yeah, and I think, like, many large companies will do donation matching, which is great. But it's hard to... Like, we've gone as far as, like, okay, who do we know that's coming to our stuff? What company do they work at? Does their company do donation matching? Tell that individual about it. And then it's up to them to, like, do the work of, like, signing up on the website to do the thing, probably. But that's a great way. But, yeah, it just is, like, person to person, figuring out how to get in. Yeah.
Oh, another question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to have a hard time with, like, the big companies that have all the money, but I feel like some of the weirdo tech companies might be interested. Like,
Yeah.
do you, like the ATX DAO? I know they sponsor things sometimes. So maybe there's like weird crypto bros that would be into it. Have y'all ever sold like NFTs or I don't know?
We actually have a policy against it. Yeah. Yeah,
Understandable, you know. I was just, I don't know, when that whole thing happened, I was sitting here going, I dug into how they work technically, and I'm like, wait, you mean I could, no, you can change the image on the server. This is ridiculous. What are they doing?
It was rough. That was a rough time for media arts. Like, I'm not gonna put any of my friends down for just trying to make rent. Go for it. But also that devastated the media arts scene. Truly. Yeah.
Go to the corporate matching. Have you done any advertising at your public events to capture the individuals so they'll be donating their money and then have it matched? That might be an avenue to really push for that, especially with the nonprofit side. So I think there's going to be a huge shift from the digital art creation to the actual human touch, because we're just getting saturated with AI created content, and it's going to be so heavy in our day-to-day life that all we're going to want to do is go listen to someone play something or watch somebody draw something instead of us. I just made my first video game on Sunday with no coding experience after an hour and a half of 135 questions from ChatGPT 5. It worked. Like, so it's going to decimate the market in the way we understand it, but it's going to open up a lot of new avenues for people who are just so sick of this non-human side to open up this floodgate for, man, I want to go outside and see somebody do something rather than just think of it and it just appear.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm into that.
You don't like scrolling through a Facebook feed of endless generic AI images? Shocking.
Cool.
I'm curious if any of your events have like been kind of like immersive experiences, like built on all the different like artists, and is that like something that you guys have done? Because I don't mean this derogatorily. I apologize if it sounds mean. From what I've learned from being around a lot of tech bros is that they like an escape from reality, like most people, because we live in this era. But I don't know, I was imagining, someone was saying that, you know, maybe the art is not meeting their expectations. And I wonder if like kind of giving them a different world, giving people in general really a different world to like go into, like kind of like a Meow Wolf thing, but like less Meow Wolf. Not to discredit Meow Wolf, but I hope that doesn't sound rude.
I hear you. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I will say, okay, I'm going to pull up some pictures on the site. Yes, yeah, I love doing this. I loved doing this, and it's very expensive to run that kind of event. But I'm going to scroll through some like greatest hits. One of them, this was like the on the road version of Spam's The Internet, the Restaurant, which is a VR cafe that I ran. That was in its initial iteration. It was like a 2-person diner. You would go in and you would book a 30-minute table reservation with a date, and your appetizer was net art. We'd serve you the keyboard and a burger basket. VR, there were lots of different options of artist-made VR projects you could watch, and you and your date would choose different entrees and talk about what you enjoyed separately. And then the desserts were like some kind of augmented reality fingernails or 3D printed sculptures or something like that you could play with. And this was a thing that I was making, and the Meow Wolf people, like, before they formed the group, saw it, and then were talking to us of like, how do we want to make this thing called Meow Wolf, how do we do it, and can we borrow your artists? And I really didn't like their model, so it was like, no, avoid. But yeah, so I love doing this kind of thing. We did so many events that were like, we did sports where we commissioned 30 different artists to invent a sport, and then you would get in line, get your ticket, and you would have with your friends like your sports team and run and do all the sports and win awards. This was another the selfie gauntlet. I think this was, and this was like, this one happened around the time that like Museum of Ice Cream was happening, and we're just like making fun of this corporate pablum that's there to fill your Instagram feed. You could only go for free, like you paid at the door to do the selfie gauntlet. You had to post all 35 selfies from these artist-made stations on your Instagram feed, like basically just tank your metrics, and then we would refund the cost to you. It was so fun. And yeah, so yes, we loved doing it. This one was part of sports. It's 2 giant Trump babies, and you had to throw basketballs into their mouths, and it would come out the diapers, like as fast as you can. There was one called AHOM where we turned the space into an IKEA. We did. This was from AHOM. Art by the Pound, where we organized things by color, and you could purchase artwork by weight. There was a lot of painted rocks in this exhibition. If we were to bring it back and actually pay people for their time instead of just burning people out because people want to do it and it's fun, we could do it, and we would charge a high ticket price for it. We honestly haven't had the energy to do it since the pandemic. But yeah, we have really shifted from doing big, wild, crazy events pre-pandemic to then post-pandemic learning like artists just need support and they want professional development. So we've shifted to more services than big events. But yeah, that's maybe a thing. Yeah.
Okay, Meow Wolf is super interesting because I was a computer science major, and Meow Wolf has like captured a lot of people that I went to school with, and they like are not interested in art, but they like fucking love Meow Wolf and will fly out to Mexico, New Mexico, to go to Meow Wolf, and like they love it. And it seems like it's interesting that they contacted you because I could kind of see like similarities between not the style per se, but like this idea that you go into this different world and there's like all this like interesting art and etc. And they really enjoy that experience. I wonder what it is about the model that you don't like and why you don't think
it could be
replicated.
Let's see, I'm putting myself back in this brain. The idea of the model, at least in the like origins, was the same thing that you see in games, is sanitizing the artist name from the art. The artist is coming to participate in this whole, but who they are is removed from it. And they're being sold on a promise of exposure. They're being paid not enough they're being told they'll get exposure for it and they're not receiving that exposure feels really predatory. There's one side of it. Another side of it is popularizing the idea that media art should be a theme park. That we expect a push button turns red. Wow. That's not art to me. I know there's more to it than that, but if you're looking at kind of the threads of like there's one branch of media art that's thoughtful and trying to challenge ideas, do something different, and there's one that's trying to make something wow, go bleep. Cool, but that moment was where that idea really got catapulted up, just like this is what media art is, and distracted a little bit from kind of this longer history that you see in net art, video art, of just like really challenging medium, challenging the companies that are making the tech, the kind of what goes into producing a piece of technology, what does the medium mean, like all of this, and instead making it about entertainment, so it falls into the same category of other entertainment forms.
I can also just add a little personal EFF Austin stuff to build onto that, which is actually for some of our parties, one of the lead artists at Meow Wolf, who's a very talented electrical engineer and woodworker, has actually contributed some of his independent work to a few of our parties, and I can tell you that man does not get paid enough for what he does. Like, I mean, he gets paid all right, but not well enough for how talented he is, so I can back up that they don't pay enough.
Yeah. Another question.
Because I went to Meow Wolf once, and I was like, not super. It was fun, right? But like you said, it was an amusement park. You walk in, and there's like a little story, and you press some buttons, and it lights up. But if someone said to me, "What if you could go to Meow Wolf, but it's like actually cool, and it's real artists, and they actually get credit," and I'd be like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'd want to go to that."
Yeah.
Like that just seems like a way you can market yourself to be like, hey, are you also tired of all this corporate bullshit, but you want to go see cool art that people are doing? But it's also like you get to interact with the technology. Wouldn't that be neat? I feel like that would capture a lot of people.
I get it. Right on. Thank you.
I can actually weirdly offer a few follow-ups to that as well, actually, which, well, one, from what I can tell from the people I know in the Austin community who got very into the Meow Wolf stuff, there's a lot of overlap with the burner community, as you might expect, but to that end, I think people who really got into the Meow Wolf stuff, there's an element of they're not necessarily art connoisseurs, they're more enjoyers of interesting experiences while in altered states connoisseurs. So Meow Wolf's great for that, but maybe if you actually want to be challenged by art, not just, ooh, look at these pretty things, what's going on, maybe not the best choice. And I can also say that another person I know in Austin who actually for many years went and worked at Meow Wolf, you know, I think some of it may be that Meow Wolf is actually not unleashing the full creativity of its designers because, you know, as you say, it's like, oh, push button. I know he was capable of way more than that. One time at a underground party I went to in my 20s when I was cool, he'd set up this whole thing of like this VHS art where he essentially had like hacked the static and made it look like the TV was talking to you. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm like, so they have people talented enough to do that. They're just not asking them to do that. I don't know why.
That was at our computer Scientology exhibition.
Cool. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow, I had a thought and then I lost it. Great. Cool.
I'm not surprised you know, Jerome. Not at all. Do we have any other questions? We're also, though, we've been chatting for plenty of time. If we are running out of questions, we can always wrap up. We don't have to always go till 9. Any more? Okay, well, in that case, we can go ahead and wrap up a little early, but I want first everybody to give Rachel a nice big hand, because very fascinating stuff. And as somebody who is a native Austinite, may I just say thanks for keeping the weird alive. What you guys do is awesome, and I hope you guys manage to keep doing it in a city that keeps getting harder and harder to do this sort of stuff, so please, keep it up. Encourage all of you, if you enjoyed the presentation and have never been to MOA, please go check it out. It really is one of this city's weird treasures, especially if you moved here and people keep talking about keep Austin weird and you're like, yeah, but this, it doesn't actually seem that weird. It's like, well, there is weird stuff still here, and Moa's one of them. So you should go check it out if you haven't seen it. And yeah, we're all probably going to now go down to the lobby, to the bar there, and get drinks, chat, hang out. You're all welcome to join us. We encourage you to. If not, we'll, of course, see you next month. Also, I have parking vouchers if you parked in the garage and need one for you go. And yeah, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thanks so much.
basically thing. So it's putting like masking over the audio so AI can't even understand it.
Yeah. So we could take an example where a few years ago, adversarial examples became very popular. You might have heard of the story of a stop sign. Like a regular stop sign to us. But then it has just enough noise added to the image that an AI program, a deep neural network would think, oh, that's a cat or whatever. Well, right. Even if I decided, okay, time to sell out, very naughty. It's a public record, so these topics are interesting. So maybe there's a way to expand on that because add a new analytics pipeline here. Why? This doesn't help the customer in this
I really believe it's going to go back to the in-person experience. We're all going to switch backstage. But get me out of the space and go see somebody.
We'll go to the bar. We'll talk to the bar.
Great, great presentation.
I'm coming. that kind of guy. So when he came back from San Francisco, he told me the story. He's like, yeah, I went to rent a car. And when I went there, they only rented it for years. And he was saying, he was like, what is car? He's like, why can't you pick like that? I just rent a car. And they told him like, because you need a car that's fast enough for the people who are going to try to rob you. And I didn't know what to make of that because again, right? You see what kind of guy, you see what kind of guy who they dumb shit, right? And then I went there and I was like, oh, he was totally telling the truth. And I got to the airport and I walked out and there was a blind homeless people. And I fucking went into the graveyard San Francisco to be able to walk and get on the golf and stuff. I walked through every single one fucking there. And they're all like full of broken windows, and what's the one with broken windows? Fucking destroys that and I was like, what the fuck happened here? He was like, sorry, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even imagine that to you.